All my dreams, fantasies, all the nights I've stayed up imagining myself riding this bike, all of it comes down to this moment. This very moment right here. Hi, I'm Anurag, and this story is about my very own Royal Enfield Continental GT 650. Now, I'm not going to pretend to motivate you in this video. This is just my way of registering, documenting, and coming to terms with what I've accomplished. A dream I've had for years, decorated with fantasies of things I'd do once it actually happens, and eventually living it up. After years of longing, planning, disappointment, and an unending hope that it will work out someday. The Royal Enfield GT 650 has been my dream bike since its launch in 2019. So much so that as soon as it launched, I could not wait to get my hands on it. I rented the bike to take it for a ride of about 500 kilometers in a single day. I ended the day returning the bike and coming back home with shiny bright eyes, an absolute love for this mad machine. I decided then, there will be one day when I will earn and own this bike. But my love for the GT does not start here. I always loved bikes since my childhood, which I may have inherited from my dad, but I did not have a specific dream bike as such. Also, back then YouTube wasn't a thing in India. So all I got to see of bikes was either in the movies or shows like Z Ignition, which I used to steal glimpses of when no one was watching the TV. I would salivate at anything and everything that had an engine and two wheels, and would dream of owning a bike and ride it on the streets. What bike, what street, I had no clue.
I remember sitting on the fuel tank of my dad's Hero Honda Splendor and holding the handlebars, winds blowing on my face and chest, and me pretending to actually ride the bike. What a life. I was small, but I knew what the functions of the bike were. I knew how the accelerator works. I could turn indicate, switch the headlights on and off. But my feet reached only till the crash guard. One fine day, my dad let me use the accelerator on an empty road while I sat on the fuel tank. I gently opened the throttle, knowing how it works, and I could see the bike increasing its pace and the winds blowing stronger. I, for the first time, rode the bike. Dad obviously took care of the rest, but that was the first time in my life I felt I was riding the bike. The fact that I remember this day so vividly, even after having a goldfish memory, is a testimony to how special that feeling was for me.
Cut to 2009, when I was in 9th grade, I first learned to ride a scooter, my sister's Kinetic. Later in 10th, I learned riding my dad's motorcycle, the Bajaj XCD 125. Years passed. I left my home to proceed with my career to a different city, where I did not have my own vehicle. A few of my friends were sometimes kind enough to let me ride their bikes, but besides that, I usually kept craving for that freedom. Year 2014, KTM launched its RC390. Super sporty looks, extremely brutal acceleration, and insane agility. I was drooling everywhere I saw it. I obviously had very little experience with bikes, but couldn't wait to ride and own it. Also, given that I had just started earning, my salary was just peanuts, and this Austrian hooligan was way out of my league and budget.
I remember showing photos of the RC390 to my dad, and he dismissing it immediately as soon as he saw the photos, because he did not like how it looked and for the power it had and speeds it could go. Also, Dad was right when he said that this is the time in life where I should focus on my career and savings rather than spending time and money on liabilities.
I even then kept on dreaming. I would watch videos of people on YouTube taking delivery of the RC390, the unveiling of the bike while taking the cloth off, the first start with loud cheer, then them riding it at triple-digit speeds and the euphoria and thrill that followed.
I was craving for that feel, and in a very toxic way was living vicariously through their lives and cursing my own broke-ass life not getting to afford one. Do I not deserve to experience this pleasure? Unlike my father, I had very little patience back then, and the dream just felt unrealistic with every passing day. I felt miserable, to the point where one day I just snapped. I realized that this dream is not turning into a reality anytime soon. I was mad at myself for not getting to afford the RC390.
In today's internet era, just like you watch your diet to maintain your physical health, it is also very crucial to watch your information diet to maintain your sanity and mental health. Dreaming of something is good. We should absolutely be ambitious in life. But it is extremely important to be self aware and look at how we dream and let these dreams influence us. YouTube and social media in general is the only place we all share in common. Everything else in your and my life is completely different. Our personalities, our lifestyle, privilege, challenges, goals, everything is unique. But we often tend to live vicariously through the lives of the people we see on the internet and involuntarily make that our benchmark of success and happiness, forgetting that they still enjoy a lot better privilege and opportunities than we do. Now, I won't say I've accomplished something great in life, but the privilege that I have is a lot different than you do. Also, you just see 10% of my life that I very carefully curate for the reason of your entertainment. And making that your inspiration and letting that influence you is not healthy. Forget about me. There are people on the internet that own super expensive bikes and cars and have shared their journeys of them dream about everything. I fully love and respect their stories. But on the other hand, I also understand that these are highly successful personalities and owning a Triumph Tiger or a Ninja H2 or a BMW 1250 GSA is actually not a big deal for them. But for me, to dream of owning, riding and maintaining the same kind of bike won't make the most amount of sense.
I did the same mistake back then, to live vicariously through the internet, and wasn't mature enough to realize how unhealthy that was. I used to watch people ride, own and slay the bike I can only dream of. And then looking back at my life and my bank account, had gotten insanely frustrating. And my very first dream bike just died in my head. There was no motivation left for me to dream about the RC390. Don't get me wrong, it is still among the best sports bikes in India. But the circumstances and my lack of self-clarity led me to kill my very first dream.
फिर क्या हुआ?
फिर क्या? अगले दिन अपने मोहल्ले में
2014 was also the year when Royal Enfield launched the Continental GT 535, India's very own and first ever cafe racer. A revolutionary new platform, fresh design, new engine, and looks and style to die for. I had no idea about this bike, and it missed my radar by miles. I was so focused on the RC390 alone that I overlooked every other option that there was in the world then. I'm a sucker for retro styling, and this one also had the sporty elements I loved in the RC390. I remember discovering this bike randomly in the year 2017, and to be very honest, I did not have any feelings for it then. But one fine day, I watched this video on YouTube. This YouTuber called Gaurav Prabhu rode his Continental GT 535 down the Khardungla top. A 7-minute video with no music, no talking, just the GT being ridden on the breathtakingly scenic twisties of Ladakh and the thump of the 535cc engine. I wanted everything happening in that video to happen to me. The rush, the joy, the euphoria of riding that beautiful machine, having that twin-pod dashboard in front of me and that musical exhaust note. 7 minutes. Those 7 minutes were enough to make me fall in love all over again.
I had learnt my lesson after my last dream shattering. I thought of it as just a phase that will pass and I'll move on to something else. But trust me, my love for the GT has only grown. There have been hundreds of exciting new launches of different brands with insane specs and performance, but the GT had taken over my mind and my heart. It had just the right elements for me to want it. The power of a 535cc engine, sporty riding dynamics, and the hippie cafe racer retro style. Just don't get me started. Also, I had grown patient with my dreams by now. I knew it was going to take a while for me to get to afford one. My father also needed some convincing. But if I take it easy, spend my money wisely, and aim at it as a goal rather than a dream, I may in fact get it.
2017 was also the year when my family felt the need of a car. I had grown myself enough financially to afford a car by then, and we decided to get it. Hence my GT went down the priority list. But I said to myself, patience. Patience is the key. I held back a little longer and I knew that this is just going to increase my craving for the GT. and eventually be even more euphoric to own. I just kept grinding and preparing for the day that finally happens. Nothing's running away, the world isn't ending. Just keep your head down and do your thing. A few months later, January 2018. Royal Enfield discontinues the production of the Continental GT 535 because of low volumes in sale. And here we go, all over again. Now I don't know what was going on in the minds of the cafe racer gods, but they just did not want me to own the GT.
This was almost the end of my Continental GT dream as well. There was hardly anything I could do, and this wasn't the first time it was happening. And I was pretty okay with it. I anyway wasn't going to buy that bike anytime soon. I at least did not have the frustration of not getting to own that bike while it was possible. The retro style, sculpted tank, clip-ons, twin-pod dashboard, the sweet thumb, all were a part of history now.
But there was a silver lining.
Picture abhi baki hai mere dost.
At the end of 2017, Royal Enfield had announced the fresh and new 650 twins. I was super excited for that as well, but I also knew very well that they were not even close to my league. But after the discontinuation of the GT 535, the GT 650 grabbed my attention. Shortly after the announcement, there came spy videos of the bike, along with its exhaust note and the amount of power it had. This was the Continental GT. The same retro style, sculpted tank, clip-ons, twin-pod dashboard. The sweet thump of the 535 had grown into a mean growl. But this was a much bigger mountain to climb. Shortly after the twins launched, this is when I was in Bangalore, where I rode a rented GT 650 for about 500 kilometers in a single day. And there, I was sold. Since then, my love for the GT has been growing with every passing day. I've been obsessing over this bike, planning of ways to accessorize it, make it my own, while simultaneously saving up and juggling between spendings and responsibilities. I could have easily afforded another bike by now, even an RC 390 for that matter. But the GT 650 was just engraved in my dreams. But I wasn't there yet. In 2018, my dad had to let go of his 11-year-old Bajaj XCD 125. I then bought him his dream bike of 20 years, the Royal Enfield Classic 350. After living a comfortable life since childhood, getting to do what I love, and to get my dream job despite coming from a middle-class family, my dad did not discourage any of my ambitions in life. It was now my turn to return the courtesy to my family and my parents. I kept the GT dream for later once I save up again after buying the Classic 350. In 2019, I brought the Classic 350 to Mumbai after a year of my dad riding it. And this YouTube journey is a result of that.
Things, responsibilities, expenses came one after the other, and the GT just kept slipping away. But all this while, I decorated my dreams with wish list of things I'd do to my bike, places I'd take it to, videos I'd make with it, the kind of helmet I'd have, the gear I'd wear to complement the retro style of the bike. Everything was planned and was just pending execution. I would also come across a GT on the road and would be tempted to ride it, and used to fantasize myself riding it as my own one day. Ooh, Continental GT, dude. He also had those cross strips on the headlight. God damn it, that was the Dr. Mayhem color. Oh man. I mean, it slices my heart every time I see that goddamn bike, dude. The longing is real. I had a few expenses, unavoidable expenses that led to, jiggle of my budget a little bit, so I had to postpone the plan. It's okay. I mean, not right now, then later for sure. प्यास बढ़ती रहनी चाहिए. प्यास जितना बढ़ेगी ना, उतना ज़्यादा मज़ा आएगा जब उसको बुझाया जाए. That's the only thing that has just kept me going. The hope to, quench that thirst. The long thirst of wanting to ride and own that bike. आएगा वो दिन भी आएगा. Till then, I have this darling.
September 2021. I was finally at a good place in life. My career was going good. YouTube was also flourishing on the sides. I had the biggest support for my ambitions in the form of you guys. I also convinced my father to let me get myself my dream bike. Finally, I decided to take the plunge. But before I booked the bike, I thought I'll first take a test ride. Because it had been years since I last rode the GT 650 and I wanted to be sure about my decision.
Alright, today is an exciting day because I'm going to get a test ride of the Continental GT 650, and I'm guessing that you're watching this video after you've known all of this, but if you don't know that already, here it goes. I'm excited and a little anxious as well. It's like going on a first date. And there's no reason for me to test ride it. I know that I'm gonna buy, I know that I want to buy that, but it's just that the last I've ridden that bike is about 3 years ago, and with, I don't know, your past experiences, when you revisit those memories, with time you often tend to romanticize all of that. I don't want that romantic idea of me riding that bike. That's why I want to experience it first time once again. And it's not that it's going to change my decision. I'm going to buy it eventually, but then too, just for my peace of mind, I want to ride it once before I bring in that cash. Alright, this is it, the moment of truth. Okay, it picks up very, very quick, huh? I'm not used to this. Damn, the power is crazy, dude. This is going to be fun. I'm already loving this. Too much talk though, too much talk. I also need to be mindful of those exhausts at the back. I can't cut through narrow spaces now unless I want a brushed finish on my exhaust. Damn, that grunt. The Pyarelal twin engine. Should I call my bike Pyarelal? Because it's parallel twin.
A few moments later.
It is wobbly as f***. Am I punctured or something? I'm punctured, dude. That is why. Ladies and gentlemen, look at that. That's the culprit. What are the odds? I take it for a test ride for 2 hours and this is what I get.
One eternity later.
Chalo, thanks, huh? Back to basics, guys. Bye. औकात याद दिलाना कोई इनसे सीखे सीखे इनसे. Oh man, that's so unfortunate, dude. I mean, I got the sense of it, I got a hang of it, but then too, I was so excited for the day, man. I was thinking about it since the morning and it just got ruined.
Well, that went embarrassingly wrong. But it did not deter me from the idea of owning this bike. I was right with my fantasies and dreams. This is the one. I always loved the Mr. Clean version, the chrome, and I always wanted to get that. I paid the booking amount and came back home. This is finally happening, I said to myself. I was supposed to get the bike after a waiting period of 3 months. Yep, Royal Enfields have a huge waiting period. That meant that I'd get my bike by the end of December. All I did meanwhile was just dream. The way the chrome will shine in the yellow lights of Mumbai streets. The way it will ride in the twisties. The growling of the exhaust note. The way I looked crouched down on the saddle. And the best part is that these dreams weren't hollow. This was finally going to happen. A few weeks later, end of November 2021, a few days before the delivery of my dream bike, Royal Enfield suddenly announced a special 120-year limited edition of the 650 twins. Now trust me when I say this, I am not into collector pieces and limited edition made by brands. Not just vehicles, but any kind of products. These are just marketing gimmicks and they are mostly just the same product with fancy coloring. But the fact that I was already drooling over the beauty of the GT, when I saw the limited edition one, my jaw dropped. The chrome tank that I loved was now dark chrome that looked absolutely mean. Everything else on the bike was completely matte black.
Now, I might sound like a kid, but I did exactly what a kid would do. I forgot about everything else and I wanted this now. I was ready to wait for another few months, but I wasn't letting go of this. I also convinced myself that maybe this was just meant to be. The cafe racer gods weren't letting me own the GT maybe for this moment. If I would have gotten the RC390 or the GT650 earlier than now, I would have missed out on getting myself this insanely exclusive and divine looking limited edition GT. Also, the fact that only 60 of these were going to be sold in India made that even more exciting. And since these were only 60, it was going to be nowhere close to easy. A flash sale was scheduled on 6th of December, 7 PM in the evening. I had one shot. The prices of these were obviously going to be high since these are limited edition. I had already booked a Chrome GT anyway, which was due for a delivery in a mere few days. I had nothing to lose except for a little more money. Also, my chances of getting the bike were extremely slim because I was competing against thousands of people across the country who were tuning in for the sale at the same time. I stayed home that day and kept all the necessary details ready. I had never been this prepared even for my board exams. I'd kept my name, my address, my contact details, Aadhaar details, the dealership that I'd want to take the delivery from. I had also kept my UPI ready for quick checkout.
7 p.m. the sale goes live. Here comes a form page in front of me asking the same details I had prepared for. I copy paste everything within 10 seconds, select the dealership, enter my UPI ID, make the payment, and boom. Did I just book the bike? I get a confirmation mail from Royal Enfield congratulating me for owning the very exclusive 120-year anniversary limited edition Continental GT 650. What? I am among 60 people in India to get to own this incredibly beautiful machine. And I got to know that mine is the only one in Mumbai. Whoa! I wasn't prepared for this, but this was happening. Maybe all of this was just meant to be for this moment. I immediately cancelled my booking of the mystically GT 650 I had booked earlier. And now, all I had was a wait of 3 more months. And an eternity later, 8th of March, I got a call from the dealership to come and make the payment for the bike. And 5 days later, the day finally arrived. 13th of March 2022. It's been a month since I've been riding the bike of my dreams. I spent the last 4 years craving for this bike. The feel, the ride, and the experience. And trust me, this is as romantic and ecstatic as I imagined it to be. But nothing in my life has changed apart from this bike. Neither am I going to give you any hopes about your life changing. Not that I did not know about this. Over the course of years of me dreaming of this bike, I realized one thing. Reality is not always as romantic and as pleasurable as your imagination. This bike or any materialistic possession you own or dream of owning is just that, materialistic. We often watch people owning things we aspire to own. We envy them assuming how happy they are, how complete their life is since they do what we can only dream of. This is a result of the constant conditioning the brands and social media have been doing to our brains.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm not happy owning this bike. But the journey of me working towards my dream of getting this bike was much more pleasurable than me owning this bike eventually in the first place. I own this bike now, and whatever I do to it is going to take time, money, and effort. Back when I dreamt of it, I could do absolutely anything to it, and that would be perfect and costed nothing. I painted and decorated my dreams however I wished, and that was the best feeling ever.
I said at the beginning of this video, this is not a motivation for you to own your dream bike or car. I urge you guys to start dreaming, make it your own, obsess over it, but do not let it consume you. Because once the dream comes true, you suddenly lose your purpose. If I would have spent years doing nothing but just focusing on saving up, working extra hours to earn money for the bike of my dreams, once the dream came true, there would have been no further motivation for me to keep working and grinding. I then would have become complacent. Thankfully, with all the obstacles that came my way, I learned to move on with life when there were setbacks, and not just kept cribbing and focus on fixing what went wrong. There are videos on internet saying money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a motorcycle. They're basically the same thing. That can't be any further from truth. Money can buy you comfort at best. A motorcycle or any materialistic possession is not going to make up for everything missing in your life. You have to work for it. I am pretty content with my life at this stage, but there are still a lot of aspirations for me to look forward to. This one part of my life, this one craving is satisfied for now. You never know, I might grow out of this sooner than I think and maybe start dreaming of something else. But for now, here is where the dream ends. Here is where the reality starts. This reality will have oil leaks, scratches, dents, and a whole lot of problems. And I'm of course going to enjoy all of it down the line. But the romantic idea of me owning my flawless dream bike ends here. All my dreams, fantasies, all the nights I've stayed up imagining myself riding this bike, all of it comes down to this moment. This very moment right here.